Hello everybody, MorbTron here. Today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about fusion rifles and what makes a good fusion rifle so good. So I've got every legendary fusion rifle option with random rolled stats. There's a lot of fusion rifles out there from year one that have fixed rolls, and some of them are actually fairly decent if you don't manage to get an actual good roll. So if we go ahead and take a look at the Epicurean FR4, for instance, from year one, has under pressure, liquid coils, and a flash HS5 sight. It's a good base fusion if you're looking to get into learning how to use them in the Crucible. That's mainly what this video is going to be focusing on, is the Crucible. In PvE, fusion rifles are still very, very lackluster, minus a few situations. They would need quite a bit of work to actually be able to compete with things like shotguns for boss damage and things of that nature, and have a lot of work to be done on them before they compete with other special weapon types like single-shot grenade launchers in the current PvE boss damage meta. So the fusion rifles that I have with me here on display, we have the Epicurean FR4, the new Epicurean from Menagerie, the Tempered Dynamo from the Scourge of the Past, the Loaded Question, which is the pinnacle weapon from last season. I'm sorry, 2 seasons ago, in Black Armory. The Eliam FR3, the main ingredient, and the Wizened Rebuke. Each and every one of these has a roll that I like, minus the Loaded Question. I'm not a fan of Loaded Question. Don't at me on this one. I'm just not a fan of it in basically any scenario. I've used it a little bit, got a little bit over 500 kills with it in PvE. I just don't care for it. It has its uses, but not for what I use fusions for in PvE. Anyway, moving on. Talking about what makes a good fusion rifle. Basically what you're going to look for is anything that increases the range right off, because range does increase bullet magnetism, and bullet magnetism and aim assist do affect, well, fusion rifles. They do shoot energy, but they are considered projectiles or bullets. If you see, I'm this far away from my friend Laura over there, and I'm able to take her out with one shot from this Epicurean. I can probably even go back farther. And what allows me to do that is how tightly I can keep those fusion bolts placed. And range does affect that, but just the weapon itself affects that as well. The Epicurean is by far the most powerful fusion rifle for Crucible when it comes down to how far away you can secure a kill, but it does have a slower charge time to kind of compensate for that. There are ways around it. You can roll this weapon with Backup Plan, which Backup Plan, as I have in my Tempered Dynamo here, and sorry Laura, but I'll have to just take you out with the King Daddy fusion rifle to get more ammo. But what this does is after you have ammo for your fusion rifle, and you let it stow for a little while, and you hear that noise, you can pull it out and basically rapid fire the fusion rifle once or twice. But I'm not personally a fan of Backup Plan. I don't like using my fusion rifles as a reactionary weapon. You know, I don't like pulling out the fusion rifle to use Backup Plan, because at that time I feel like I'm already at a disadvantage compared to somebody running at me with a shotgun, or currently a Lord of Wolves, or something of that nature. I like to pre-fire my fusion rifles, which is where you don't have Backup Plan, and basically, you know, you come around a corner already charging the fusion rifle. But this specific fusion rifle I don't use in Crucible because it doesn't really have a Crucible type roll. This one, having Rampage, is more of a PvE type weapon to take out majors, things of that nature. It does have a range masterwork, which is nice, but as you saw there, its bolt pattern is very, very inconsistent, and if I'm as far away as I was with the Epicurean, well, there it killed, but usually it doesn't. Usually in a live fire situation, it's just not going to get the job done. Now, a fusion rifle that I use quite often, that a lot of people don't use or don't give the time of day to, is the Eliam FR3. And where this fusion rifle has a place in at least my Crucible pocket would be it's got a faster charge time. Its other stats are pretty low compared to, let's say, the Erentil, if you look at the range and the impact, but it does have much higher handling, a little bit better stability, and faster reload, and a much faster charge time. But you'll see here they both have tap the trigger. And pretty much any fusion rifle that I use in the Crucible has tap the trigger. And what tap the trigger does, before I get into the Eliam versus the Erentil versus the main ingredient, is it procs on every pull of the trigger or every blast of the weapon. Because tap the trigger, you read here, it says grants a short period of increased stability and accuracy on initial trigger pull. So that's generally the first couple of bullets out of an auto rifle. You know, if it's out of a scout, I don't think there's tap the trigger on any scout, but if there was, it'd be on the first bullet. But on the fusion rifle, it's every time you fire. And technically on a scout, it'd be every time you fire too. So on a single shot weapon, it's going to be every time you fire the weapon, you're going to get tap the trigger. And what that does for the fusion rifle is it keeps the bolts nice and tight, like so. But the Eliam, where it shines versus the Erentil versus the main ingredient, is it's got a much faster charge time. So you can be more reactionary with the weapon, but you're going to be in close range. And what you're going to want to look for on a Eliam is, of course, the range masterwork, because you want that on any fusion rifle. But what I have here is also particle repeater, which increases stability. I don't really like ionized battery. You can get something that increases the range here as well, which would be the better option, but this is the best roll I have gotten on a Eliam. And then we have here the Jolt PS, which is the better of my two sights, because it increases range a little bit more than the Spark PS. And it's just a better sight. But hip firing a fusion rifle, I don't do very often. It does increase the spread a little bit, makes it a little bit more unpredictable. Not as much with the Eliam, especially with that perk you saw there on the left-hand side. But what makes this Eliam deadly, especially in closer ranges, is we've got Threat Detector along with Tap the Trigger. So Threat Detector increases reload stability and handling when the enemies are in close proximity. And the Eliam, its range doesn't really come into play outside of Threat Detector range. So right here, I'm outside Threat Detector. Again, I was able to take her out, but in a live fire situation, probably going to miss. What it allows you to do is when I'm using the Eliam and I see Threat Detector pop up on the left-hand side of my screen, I know that I am within range to kill the target. And what Threat Detector allows me to do, it allows me to hip fire a little bit better and secure a kill better than if I didn't. So obviously when you're using a fusion, you get better control over the recoil, better control of the bolt pattern when you are aiming down sights. But if you do have to hip fire, having something like Threat Detector can make it a little bit better. But it's always a it's always a better option to use something like aiming down sights, Threat Detector. Kind of lost my train of thought there. It happens. All right, we're doing it live. But moving on to this main ingredient. And this main ingredient has something else I want to talk about as well for fusion rifles. The charge time masterwork. Now, when I originally got this thing dropped, I was excited for Tap the Trigger, Snapshot Sights, Projection Fuse, which increases the range, and having the red dot 2 MOA. This is basically right here my god roll main ingredient. Mine is a charge time masterwork. I was initially pretty excited about the charge time masterwork, but what it actually does is it does decrease the charge time. This is usually a 740 charge time, which is 0.74 seconds to a 0.7 seconds. So 0.04 seconds faster, and it actually does decrease the impact by a tiny bit. And what I had discovered after a while of using this weapon is that sometimes people will live with just the smallest sliver of health. So it is a good fusion, and I do enjoy using it. The main ingredient has been in the game since original release, and now, of course, has year 2 stats on it. But if you miss a bolt out of your fusion rifle volley, we'll call it, or the VOOP, with a charge time masterwork, the main ingredient does tend to leave them with like 1 health, depending on their resilience. If they're a higher resilience Guardian, you have less of a chance to kill them. Now, 2 fusion rifles that I'd just recently gotten, but haven't really had a chance to use yet, and things that I want to mention, other than this Archetype that I just got the other day, which has a very crispy roll on it for me, is this Wizened Rebuke. It has Under Pressure and Tap the Trigger. Now, the Wizened Rebuke shares the same archetype, the same charge time as the Erentil FR4. But if we compare the two, the Erentil has a much greater range base than a Wizened Rebuke. Now, I could get things on this Wizened Rebuke that do increase its range. I've got the Particle Repeater and not Liquid Coils, which gives you the increased range. Projection Fuse, and it gives you increased range. But this thing does have Under Pressure and Tap the Trigger. What Under Pressure does is improve stability and accuracy as the magazine gets lower. This does have a Stability Masterwork as well, and I'll put a Counterbalance mod in it as well. Let's get some ammo. Thor is being just a champ right now with how much I'm taking her out just for target practice and ammo, but Under Pressure, as the magazine gets lower, the stability and accuracy get better with the weapon. So when you spawn in with 2 ammo in your fusion rifle, it's already going to proc. And it's going to increase stability and accuracy with 2, and it's going to even do better with 1. But if you collect ammo and you have a full magazine, the trait's not going to be in effect at all, whereas Tap the Trigger would. But this has both. So let's see if we can notice a difference here. It's kind of shooting at the wall from this distance. And we saw Tap the Trigger go off. It might be a little bit tighter, but there is going to be some RNG with that as well. And it's going to be a good fusion, but it's not going to be better than an Erentil. Erentil having higher range, and it being in the same archetype, you'd be a fool not to use the Erentil. That's kind of my little guide there. This Epicurean, I'm going to have to play around with this roll a little bit here, because it does have Swashbuckler, and being able to increase your damage by getting a melee kill, pulling out the fusion rifle, or just having it out when you get a melee kill, getting a 5-stack of Swashbuckler, having a damage increase does effectively increase the range of your weapon. So I'll have to play around with this thing, get some practice in with it in the Crucible, and maybe make a video on this specific roll. But this one is pretty good. The only thing that I regret about it is the battery or the magazine choice here. I don't have a good roll there. But I do have a Hammer Forged Rifling, which increases range, Tap the Trigger, which I absolutely love on fusions, and then Swashbuckler, which is an interesting trait to have on a fusion rifle, and then of course a range masterwork. So let me know. I'm going to make basically a highlight reel video, or a video highlighting one of these fusions, either my new Erentil. I could do a Pro Eliam video, this main ingredient I have a couple clips for already. The new Epicurean. Let me know in the comments section down below which fusion rifle you want me to highlight first. I plan on kind of going over all of them, minus this Wizened Rebuke, because the Erentil is just better, and the Loaded Question, because I don't like it. But there's a way to play basically any of those types of fusion rifles. Let me know. Let me know what you want to see first, but I'm going to go through all of them, I think. Maybe highlight one specific, and then do the other 2 that maybe aren't so popular in one video together. But that is going to be it. This video has gone on for quite a long time as is. So thank you to Lore for being such a good sport. in this video. Do greatly appreciate the help. Ow. But, yeah, if you want to show your support on the video, hit that like button for me. If you're new here, subscribe, all that stuff. But do not forget to have a good day, everybody. And I will catch you all next time.